Okay, Mr. Phipps, I'm going, at this time, we're going to open the forum to a couple of questions from uh, individuals who are from the community at large to ask any questions that you might have of Mr. Phipps. Okay, at this time, uh, Mr. Phipps, can you share with us very briefly, um, as a follow-up question to Mr. York, um, a brief summary of what is taking place in regards to capping the Cross Bronx Expressway? And has any members from that live along the Bruckner corridor attended those meetings? So, to express any concerns about changes in the Cross Bronx Expressway that might impact the Bruckner Expressway, and also provide information so that members of this district can, actively participate in those discussions.
Sure. So let me take the first part. So just to clarify, so the project itself is called Reimagining the Cross Bronx, and so at this particular point, obviously I know capping is out there in the public, but we're in the discovery phase at this point, so we don't know what the full list of interventions are going to be. Also, just so everyone knows, obviously we're gonna, when we're doing engagement and listening to folks. Obviously, we're going to hear about a lot of other things. And so we really want to make sure that we're listening to not just things related to sort of transportation and connections. I'll give you an example. At the last open house, people talked about things like support for small businesses. They talked about food insecurity. So all of those things, we really have a responsibility as a city to listen to all of those and take a full inventory. So that's going to be part of the process as well. On the second part, I don't know that anyone specifically identified themselves and said anything particularly to the Bruckner. We are still downloading. So we had 5 different events. So we're still in the process of taking in all, getting all of that data and information and collecting it and sort of going through it. So I can definitely, once we have it all succinct and collected and go through it, I can take a look. But I can't say for sure that anyone specifically came and made any specific comments about the Bruckner Expressway.
Okay.
And then
I,
the
I
last,
just,
sorry, go
yes.
ahead. No, go ahead.
So I just want to make sure that there's a holistic approach so that there's no unintended consequences to just myopically looking at the Cross Bronx Expressway. And then there is all this traffic now on the Bruckner Expressway corridor because they run parallel to each other.
Understood, understood.
Okay.
I mean, what
So,
and what I'll say is that where we are, like we're a ways away from anything substantive happen. We have a lot more work to do in terms of the engagement and discovery and hearing from folks. And this is a planning grant, and so we're doing sort of the planning part, and then at the end, what we hope to come out with are sort of short, medium, and long term recommendations. And then some of those will be, I think, transportation related. Some of those may have jurisdiction under other agencies, and we'll have to see what comes out of that process.
so thank you for coming tonight.
My
Please
pleasure.
make sure that you give us the information that is a significant um, planning that is going that affects traffic congestion throughout the Bronx,
Absolutely.
not just along the Cross Bronx Expressway corridor. And Community Board One and our members would like to be a part of that discussion.
Absolutely, and we and I'm glad you said that. I mean, we certainly want to hear from as many folks as possible. So, I know some information has gone out for the previous events, went out to all the boards. We'll make sure that we check those lists for outreach. I also want to encourage folks who want to be engaged in the community working group. If you're interested in those, please let us know as well. We want to get as many folks engaged in this process as possible and bring as many voices to the table.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Brenna's gonna stay on. I'm gonna stay on for a little while, then I'm gonna hop on to another meeting. But it's good to see all of you, and you have a good evening.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
The next presentation or presenter is Miss Julie Kamagang. She is the political and community organizer from the New York State Nurses Association. Thank you for coming tonight. You have the forum.
Hi, good evening, Chair Parks, and thank you so much for the opportunity for our nurses at New York State Nurses Association, in particular, our nurses at Lincoln Hospital, to speak with you tonight. I will be giving the floor to one of our nurse leaders and member of the executive committee of the New York State Nurses Association at Lincoln Hospital, and her name is Musu King. And she will be speaking about the several issues on their fight for a fair contract that is ongoing right now. Musu?
Yes. Ms. King on the line.
You can start talking, Musu.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ms. King. I work in Lincoln Hospital in the emergency department. There's right now, since March 2nd, almost 90,000 New York City Health and Hospital and mayoral nurses have no contract. Our contract expires. And this is the first time we are in a bargaining for a new contract since the pandemic. Nurses and healthcare professionals working in public health systems need a fair contract to deliver the care that New York City residents need. And in order to be able to do that, we need pay parity. Pay parity is the backbone for us to keep nurses in public sector. Because what we found out is that we train nurses, health and hospitals, private, public hospitals are being used as training ground. And we can't afford to do that. We train people and then they leave because of the low pay rate with the private sector. Right now, it's about 19,000 and change difference in the pay rate. And if you consider young nurses coming on, they have student loans to pay, they have other things to take care of. They're not going to stay with health and hospitals, and they're not going to stay in their public hospital because their colleagues are making more money than them. And the cost of living in New York City, we all know, is very high. Rent is very high. Healthcare is not easy. And what happened is when all these nurses are trained and they leave, it brings down burnt out for the nurses that are left. So we are exposed to all kind of danger from patients, families, because they are frustrated. It's costing the city more money to pay agency nurses than it would cost to pay the staff nurses in the system. Right now in Jacoby alone, 25% of the nurses there are agency nurses. We are grateful for them coming to help us when we needed help. But at the same time, if you pay your nurses right, they will stay at the bedside. Most of these nurses coming back are nurses that were trained by health and hospitals, but they leave because of pay parity and safe staffing. They don't feel safe at the workplace and they don't feel like they're getting paid for what they are worth. Understaffing and low pay worsen health disparities. The crisis in understaffing at our public hospitals is driven by the enormous pay disparity between private and public sector nurses, which is growing even worse now. The city and state must prioritize for funding and invest in nurses to achieve equity and quality care for all New Yorkers. You will find out that when we have all the migrants coming in, where do they go? They go to the public hospitals. In Lincoln, every day we see thousands and thousands of people. And we don't have the nursing staff to care for these people. And they need nurses at the bedside. The experienced nurses are leaving because they are burnt out. You cannot have a new nurse who just finished orientation training another new nurse. It's not safe. And that's been happening because the experienced nurses are leaving the bedside. So in order to help serve all New Yorkers the way they deserve, pay parity, safe staffing has to be on the front page. And we are asking you guys to help us in this fight, because it's not fair to us that after all we did during the pandemic, risk our lives, risk our families, and March 2nd to now, we still don't have a contract. And this contract is dragging too long. The further it drags away, the more we lose nurses at the bedside, experienced nurses. So we are kindly asking the board to help us in this fight so that we can get safe staffing and pay parity with public sectors. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. At this time, we're opening up the forum to questions from the board members. Does any board member, can you please raise your hand if you have a question? Does any community member have a question?
I have a question. I'm a community member.
Okay, Ms. Lopez, you have the forum.
Thank you, Ms. Parks. To the Lincoln nurses, are you having any actions anytime soon at Lincoln Hospital that community can go out and hear about the issues and support?
And right now, at this moment, there's nothing coming up at right now, but we have a couple of actions coming up with Neisner. Like on May 10th, we're gonna have a rally downtown for all New York State Nursing Association that has to do with health and hospital and malaria nurses. That will be where we can also, you guys can help us in, because everybody's invited to come and support us.
Where is that taking place? Just a follow-up.
It's gonna be in Union Square.
Okay. Thank you. Can I ask another question?
You sure may, Ms. Lopez. You have the forum.
Thank you. Have you experienced any type of retaliation for speaking out? Like how are Lincoln Hospital administration and supervisors and all that reacting to the nurses?
Right now, like when the only thing we got was when the private sectors were on strike. As you all know, we cannot strike, but when the private sectors were on strike, we got an email stating that you cannot call out sick. So it means that even if you're sick, you have to go to work, because if you don't go to work, you're gonna get reprimanded, because they're thinking you are going to work, because at that time the private sector were paying nurses so much money to cover those shifts that the nurses are striking. So we get this letter in the mail, and I don't think that was fair to us, because we stayed because this is our community. We could choose to leave with our experience and go to private sector and make more money, but this is our community. These are the people that we're taking care of. Might someday be my relative that I don't even know. So we choose to stay. That letter was very insulting to us after all we went through during COVID. Like for me, for example, I have a very sick family member, my child, to be specific. It cost me a lot going to work during the pandemic and coming home. There are days that I had to cry and cry, stay downstairs because she wouldn't go to sleep. I don't want to infect her, because if I infect her, it's going to be more dangerous for her than me. So all those things that we went through, I don't think that letter was fair enough for us. I was actually sick at that time and I had to go to work because I don't want to be reprimanded.
Okay, Ms. King, thank you for answering that question. We can take one more question. There is a Diana, Miss Diana, you said you have a question. Do you want to ask your question now? Okay, I see Ms. Camagog's hands raised. Ma'am, you have the forum.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to share that we are asking the community board to pledge to support the nurses, there is a website, and it's very simple. We love NY nurses, and I will put it on the chat. So that way you can pledge your support for the nurses, not only at Lincoln Hospital, but all the public hospital nurses throughout New York City.
Okay. So can you post your information in the chat so that community board members and community at large, thank you, who are viewing this can engage and help you in your fight to get a fair contract executed. One
Thank you
final
very
question
much.
though, is patient care being impacted by the strike at all?
We are not on strike. There's no strike. They are in
Mhm.
contract negotiations right now. So they have to go to work. The nurses have to go to work, but patient care is impacted by poor staffing. When we don't have enough nurses to care for patients at the bedside or even in the emergency department where Musu is from. So
Mhm.
definitely impacts how we take care of patients and how we give quality care to the community.
Okay, thank you so much for
Thank you.
having the courage and informing us tonight. And I strongly encourage everyone at Community Board One and the residents in the community to go to that website that's been posted and support the nurses in their fight. Thank you for coming.
Thank you
That
so
con-
much.
You're welcome. That concludes the public session for tonight's meeting. We will move the agenda to item number 7, which is the chairperson's report, and I'm going to be real brief because we have a full report from the district manager for tonight's meeting. So there are two important announcements that I will make tonight. One is regarding cannabis. As many of you know, that cannabis is a new industry that the state is promoting throughout the state and city of New York. It is now legal, and they are starting to issue licenses throughout the state. We have now got an official request for a new cannabis location to open up in Port Morris at the site of the Bruckner Bar and Grill. We have reached out to the licensee to come before the board next month to, basically present their project to a joint session of the Economic Development Land Use Committee and also the Health Committee. And in that same regard, the district manager and I are working on a survey that will be out to each of you in the next couple of days regarding cannabis and the impact, since it has been announced that the industry is legal, of cannabis on the district. So I encourage, please, everyone, it'll be on SurveyMonkey. We took the recommendation of Mara Cosme, and that will be the way in which we will, going forward, be outreaching to the board on issues that impact us so that we understand what the needs are of the district. So we are in the process of doing that. And we sent out information around the cannabis legislation a number of times. Please take the time to read it and understand it. And then I'm encouraging everyone to, respond to that survey in the next couple of days when it comes out. And number two, for those individuals who live in the Port Morris corridor, please, and who are on the board, please make sure that you come out to the meeting so that, you are heard in reference to that particular matter. The next report that announcement, I'm sorry, that I have to make is regarding a a issue that is affecting Community Board One and has been affecting us for decades. And it has to deal with the siting of shelters and supportive housing in the district. Bronx Community Board 5 and 6 are taking the initiative or have taken the initiative to host a joint meeting on Monday to discuss the city's shelter siting policy or the lack thereof. They've sent out a flyer for everyone to come and join them, and I plan on attending as well. It will take place on Monday, and they have been doing their research to figure out throughout the Bronx which districts have no shelters or supportive housing. They've been able to determine that at least 8 districts have no shelters. The meeting will take place May 1st at 6:00 p.m. It'll be at 137 School Campus, 2190 Foland Street. We'll get that information out to you, and we should be a part of this discussion because nowhere in the Bronx has the siting of these facilities impacted any segment of the Bronx as it has ours and for decades. So we should participate and be present in that discussion as well. And then the last item that I want to discuss is simply a recap of where we are in terms of the plans for restructuring the board. So I'm proud that we are live streaming. That was one of our main goals, and a goal that the various members of the board have basically asked that we get done for quite some time. And so we are now tonight officially compliant. We produced an operating budget to you, and by the next maybe week or so, we will be sending out a checklist of items on the surplus that we will have and what we would like to spend that surplus on so that we don't lose the money by June 1st. And then we will need a vote on the board to spend the surplus. And we've actually started the process from the date Mr. Jordan became the district manager. He's done a great job of going into the office and cleaning it up, getting it all professionalized and organized, and making determinations on what the board needs in terms of digitizing the office, the records of the office, and just making sure that we're operating as efficiently as we need to be. So we've made, and then the next item that we know we have been working on is basically working with the board to make sure that we have board attendance so that we can, take care of the business and act in our fiduciary obligations on behalf of the district to conduct the business of the community. So that pretty much concludes my my report for tonight's meeting. And I want to thank each and every one of you for hanging in there and working with us as we move forward, on the next phase of organizing and getting CB1 to be one of the best boards in the borough of the Bronx. Thank you for participating. That being said, I'm going to move the agenda and turn it over to the district manager, Anthony Jordan. You have the forum, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for the opportunity to do my best part of my job is to advise you on what we have been working on here as a team in the office and what is happening amongst the district as it relates to the work of the community board's office. First of all, one of the things I wanted to say is I want to thank everyone who on the board advocated to ensure that we are in full compliance and up in technology by live streaming community board meetings on YouTube. This is just one step towards moving forward in the process to make sure that we have a transparent and respectable board. By live streaming on this level on YouTube, we are ensuring that the general public and the community at large that we are all responsible for representing, aware of the ins and outs and operations of all of us fulfilling our fiduciary responsibility. But it doesn't stop here. The chairperson and I have been having very passionate conversations to say what's next as far as being ensuring that we are making sure that all of us are transparent and as open as possible to ensuring the work of the board is known, respected, and done. So please look forward for next steps as the chair and others challenge our work here at the board to ensure that we are using other platforms to ensure that we can live stream our conversations and have fruitful debates about the work as in the community board. We all know this community is growing by leaps and bounds, and it's important that the work that we do is respected and that we all fulfill ourselves as fiduciaries for these communities that we serve. You all have received several emails from me that have talked about the various things. And so one of the things we can do well as community board members is the trainings that are being offered by our partners in government. And we appreciate the Office of the Bronx Borough President and others who have been bringing up those trainings anywhere from parliamentarian trainings to and so on to fruition. And they've heard the chairperson's requests about additional trainings around fair housing and so on. And so I invite you to please take advantage of those trainings that helps you become a stronger, knowledgeable individual as yourself. And as you serve on these committees and or as leading these committees, it's better for all of us to have a comprehensive understanding when we enter into conversations with people who present to us about everything from developing affordable housing, siting of shelters, or understanding how we should operate as a board or as committees. It's important that you take this training and made available to you. If you do not have access to the training or you missed my emails, please look forward and pay close attention. I know that we all have very busy lives, but like I said, the work of the board is going to definitely pick up, and these trainings are essentially important to you. So please take advantage of them. A lot of you have had the privilege to be able to hear from me after the normal business hours at 5 o'clock or so. I usually stay in the office till late in the evening because I want to make sure that each of you who have not had the appointment yet to set your schedule for your reappointment interviews, which are mandatory. If you're looking to be reappointed to the community board as a member, you must go online first and fill out your electronic application, which that process is already passed. But you must set up an interview with the Bronx Borough President's office, and that interview takes 15 minutes of your time. It's very quick. I heard from the Borough President's office that it's a very quick 15-minute interview, and that allows for the Borough President's office and her team to be able to make the process go forward to ensure that people who are interested, new or reappointed members, have the opportunity to have those conversations. And so please make sure if you either schedule your appointment for today, tomorrow, that you, or either yesterday, Wednesday, that you have made those appointments and kept them in the Borough President's office. If you have not seek those appointments, we have a representative from the Borough President's office in the room, and you can be able to discuss how and if those appointments can be rescheduled. Another great thing that I want to report, the community board is hiring. After 25 years of service, we are sadly losing an institutional gem. Anna Rojas, our community coordinator, is decided to retire and take 25 years of talent and go and enjoy some sun and some good food, hopefully, and visit some great places. And so, and Anna's departure from the community board The executive committee has worked on developing the job description, which you all should have received, for a community associate. The community associate has a salary range between 45 to 50,000 a year, including city benefits, and so that position has to go through the city's e-hire system, which is the nyc.gov/jobs career center. And you should all have received the New York City e-hire number that's directly connected to this position. If you know of a candidate, or if you yourself is looking at a regular career change, or there, please make sure you review the job description and follow the e-hire process that's electronically online. Please do not submit resumes directly to the community board office, as the community board cannot directly receive resumes. It must follow the e-hire system. You all have received, or should have received, the link, including the job description. If you have not, please just reach out to me tomorrow, and I'll make sure that you will get a copy of the directions about how to be able to apply for the position. We are really looking for some great verified candidates, and hopefully we're looking to be able to speed this process as quickly as possible, so we could have some seamless transition between Anna moving on from the board and joining retirement, and a new person being able to hit the ground running. So I'm excited about that process going forward. We have been, as the chairperson mentioned in her report, it is my job to ensure that we can take this institution and be able to try to move it as quickly as possible into the current century of operating using technology to become automated in a lot of the work that it is doing. The chairperson has charged me to ensure that we try to be able to use technology as strategic and succinct as possible. And so we have been working to make sure that we automated our constituent complaints. I've been talking to many of you on the phone about issues anywhere between double parking that's happening in your community that you observe, or other issues that you observed in your community. I have gone with the chairperson around the district doing some analysis of some major issues that have been happening in the district myself. And I look for you to invite me to every part of the community as you observe stuff or receive pictures from many of you about issues that you want me to look at, anywhere from possible permanent construction to potholes in the street, to sanitation not being picked up or the street not being swept, to traffic conditions and so on. And I've been working very closely with our law enforcement officials to ensure that public safety issues are being focused on. And I'm happy as DM that I was able to get both our commanding officer from the 40th precinct and the commanding executive officer for PSA 7, who's in charge of housing, to come to our community board meetings once a month to give an update generally what's happening, hear your concerns about what's going on in the community. This doesn't stop here. The district manager's job is to also make sure that you at along the chair know what is going on in your district. So we're going to be making sure that we are planning in the very near future and working on getting a district tour project. And the chairperson is working with me to think of all creative ways of how to make sure that people can be excited about this tour, chartering a vehicle that can take all of us around the district, looking at people from Mont Haven understanding Port Morris, people from Port Morris hopefully understanding what's happening in Mont Haven, us sitting down and having succinct conversations, and having a facilitator be able to talk about those communities historically and then help charge us conversations. Those are all challenges that we all as members of the board have challenged my work and the work of the chair to make sure that this work is being done and we are having these thoughtful conversations. I'm excited about this work going forward, and I ask you to please continue to give us great ideas. Lastly, Madam Chair, and I'll be very brief because I know we want to get to our commanding officers, is we also understand about the environmental injustices that have been happening in this community for far too long. The Bronx, the South Bronx, has been a dumping ground for so many injustice and egregious type like instances like up the Pica plant that's been placed in this district and is operating and providing environmental hardship for so many years, for decades. And at the request of the chair, we are going to continue to respond to the environmental injustices that have been happening in this district, from issues like the traffic congestions that cause so many erosions towards the smog that's been around our district and cause raise in asthma and other respiratory illnesses, to the peak plan that has been placed that provides no real support to how we operate as far as power in this district. So the time is now to demand that it is disconnected and put and down powered immediately. And so we are developing a 3-page response to me asking for year after year the immediate closure of this. And so we'll be voting in early May on the final language on the community board's response to speak to the idea of closing down that PICA plant. And Madam Chair, if there's nothing else, this is the district manager's report.
Okay,
Yes, any
so
questions?
let's open up does any board member at this time, there was a lot of information there. Does any board member have any questions at this time? Okay, there is a lot going on in the district, and we need,
Chair, would you unmute yourself? I'm sorry, there was a lot of background noise.
I was just saying that we need all of our community board members who are the ambassadors for the community to have all hands on deck, because there's a lot going on in the community. And if we don't speak up and get engaged, then we may not like the results for what other people are planning in a community where we live at. So please stay engaged. That being said, Mr. District Manager, on the agenda is the 40th precinct here?
Yes, good evening, Arlene. Joe Tompkins.
Okay, you got the forum, and it's good to see you, sir.
Thank you, you too. Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. If anyone doesn't know me, my name is Joe Tompkins. I'm the commanding officer of the 40th precinct. I've been here about a year already. This is my first time, I believe, getting on a meeting with the board. I appreciate the invite. So I'll be brief as far as my report. I just have a couple things I want to go over. I'm not big into reading over the CompStat sheet. If anyone is interested in specific numbers related to CompStat, the information is available on nypd.org. You can get the CompStat sheet for the precinct. We're actually off to a pretty good year compared to a lot of other commands. Our robberies are down for the 28-day period. They're up slightly for the year, about 5 robberies. That's always a big concern. Our 2 main concerns so far for the year and for our 28-day period, which is a month, is felony assaults and GLAs, which I'll get into in a second. But I do want to mention the positive thing, which is always our main priority here in the 4-0 precinct and in the Bronx in general, is gun violence. Our shootings are down for the year, 5 versus 11. So we actually have half the amount of shootings, a little more. There's 6 less shootings and 12 less people shot in the precinct than compared to last year at this time. So our efforts with addressing quality of life, targeting the gang members that are responsible for the violence, is seeing some positive changes. It's a slow process, but we're starting to get more cooperation from the Bronx DA when we do make arrests, and we're starting to see it with the violence. The 2 crimes that we are not seeing that with are felony assaults and grand larcenies. Felony assaults are up about 16% for the year. And GLAs, we're not seeing the crazy increase everyone else in the Bronx is, because the Bronx overall is up about 50% in grand larceny autos. We're only up about 2%, but recently we've had an increase of 58% in the recent month. So felony assaults first is strictly all domestic violence. And the reason I want to bring that up in an open forum like this is domestic violence is obviously a very difficult crime for the police department to prevent. But there are ways of intervention. Obviously, when someone is victimized and we're aware of it, we are able to offer them services we're able to, get them different types of resources that can maybe help them get out of a bad situation. Obviously, if the offender, if it's something serious enough, the offender will go to jail. That'll give the person some time to find other options for themselves. However, that's always going to be reactionary because now the person has been assaulted to the point where the police are involved. So what I like to say in these meetings is if you know someone, and domestic violence victims are going to be very hesitant to ask for help, especially from the police, maybe just as so from a neighbor. But there are signs. If you hear the yelling next door, if you see, maybe, a female or a male, looking a little disheveled or a little down or a little upset, it could be something, it could be a victim of domestic violence, or saying something to them could be helpful. You could always, refer them in a confidential way. You could refer them to the police department. You can call our community affairs, our domestic violence, and, we could discreetly, try to reach out to them and offer them services. But that's really the main way to help our neighbors is if you do see someone, but we don't want to wait until they're assaulted. If you do see someone and there's something in the back of your head saying maybe this person's having a hard time, maybe you try talking to them, or if you reach out, we could have one of our officers reach out and try to offer them services or resources that can help them get out of their situation before it escalates to violence. But we are seeing about a 53% in the last month in domestic violence, felony assaults, which is more serious, either with a weapon or a serious injury or some sort of strangulation. So, we need you to be our eyes and ears, out for your neighbors. The last thing I have is grand larceny autos. Like I said, in the last month, we've seen a dramatic increase. 11 more cars have been stolen last month compared to last year. Mm-hmm. Out of those 11, we have an increase of 11. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with the Kia TikTok challenge. Basically, these kids go on TikTok, they look at videos, and on the videos, they show you how to steal the Kia vehicle. And then they basically go and steal the car and take it for a joyride and then dump the car. We've seen 11 additional people in our community just in the past month had their Kia Fortes mostly stolen as a result of that, most likely that TikTok challenge, because we do recover the cars in close proximity in a close amount of time. So basically the kids are just taking it for a joyride. They think it's a joke, and when we do catch them, there doesn't seem to be many consequences either. So we're doing our best to try to push out awareness about this. There is a recall on these cars and also Hyundais, I believe, where there is a software update that they can do to avoid the way they hotwire it. So please let your neighbors know if any of them have any Kias or Hyundais to take a look and maybe reach out to their dealer. There are ways to protect their cars. And actually, believe it or not, the people that are my age will probably remember this. We're recommending the old-fashioned clubs that people used to put on the steering wheel for the cars are making a comeback because these young kids that are 16, 14, that we have kids as young as like 14, 15 that are stealing these cars. They don't even know what it is and what it's about. They've never seen them before, and they seem to be ignoring that car if it has the club because they don't know what it is. But that's all I have as far as the report of what's going on in the precinct. You could always reach out. I'll put my number in the chat. You could always reach out if you have any concerns, and obviously community affairs is always available too. Thank you for your time.
Okay, so put a pin in it. Thank you for coming. We're now going to open up the forum for a couple of questions from board members. Any board members that have any questions, please raise your hand and ask your question at this time. Any questions?
This is Brenda. I have a question.
Sure, you have the forum, Brenda. Ms. Goodwin.
I want to know what's going on. There seems to be a lot of activity, shooting up here on 159th Street and 3rd and Brook. A lot of young people activities in the street, doing some things up here on Brook. We reported it to the school, but we haven't seen any officers come up this way. We also put in a call to the community affairs, and we'd like to know, if the area could be manned a little better. Thank you.
Yes. So I'm assuming you're speaking about a specific incident which happened near the park at 158 and 3rd across the street from the supermarket over there. So
yes,
that specific incident was very concerning. What happened was a group of about 15 people came down from the Melrose Jackson houses, and there was a guy in the park that they had a little dispute with, and they jumped the guy in the park. The guy in the park they jumped after they stopped beating on him. he goes and he gets a gun and he starts shooting at the group that was beating him up, and then the people in the group start shooting back at him. We have identified a couple of people in that that are wanted for that incident, so that is something we're going to make arrests on. We are concentrating, like I said, those groups aren't necessarily known to hang out in the area. I think they saw the one kid that they were looking for at that park at that time. They're usually the people that we've identified are more from the Melrose Jackson houses, which we always have a lot of coverage around. We have added patrol there directly after the incident. And I know the area you're speaking of is also very close to the 42nd precinct, although it is in the 40 precinct. And we will up patrols in the area. After we have an incident like that, we always have cars in the area for an amount of time. Maybe you've seen the tail off a little bit, but we'll definitely throw a little more attention up that way. Like I said, we have been concentrating more because we know who the group was, and we know they're more likely to hang out up by the Melrose Jackson houses. That's kind of where we've been putting our resources. But I get it, after an incident like that, it's definitely more comfortable to see police around, and we'll make sure that there's more cars around down towards the 3rd Avenue, Brook Avenue area.
Thank you.
No
Thank
problem.
you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there any other questions from board members at this time? Okay, so one question that I would like to ask: the summer and the months are always pretty active in the district, and you typically would see, incidents rising in the district. So generally, do we have enough staffing of police officers to cover the needs of the district in its entirety? And what, if not, what can we do to help you in that regard?
Okay, so as a commanding officer, the answer I'm always going to give is I always want more cops. I always want more resources. We are actually the 3rd largest precinct numbers wise in the entire city. So if you do compare us to other commands, we have a lot more than most other commands do, and we're also covered by PSA 7, which covers the housing developments. So we do have a lot of resources. Obviously, we can't have cops on every single corner. We prioritize based on current trends. We move them around. One positive that we have gotten is we just got 10 new field training officers. Those are the cops that you'll see out. We put them basically in the hub area, 149th Street, 3rd Avenue, over to St. Anne's, Cortland, up a little north, where we have all the foot traffic. We have a lot of narcotics use. So those cops out on foot, we see a lot more. We cover Diego Beekman. We always have a car there, 141 and Beekman. And we also always have a car on in between Mott Haven and Patterson on 143 and 3rd. Those are kind of our steady, where we're always going to have covered, and then we will move resources around as we need it. All the officers in field training are going to be working later from 6 to 2. And then in the summer, we are also a command that gets what we call all out, where they do usually give us an additional 20 to 30 officers during the busy times. So to answer your question, we could always use more, but I think we get a fair amount of resources in comparison to.
Okay, I just have one final question, and I'll recognize the district manager, and then we'll move the agenda. So there seems to be quality of life concerns throughout the district, especially as in regards to truck traffic all throughout the district, parking in places, double parking. Can you address what specifically the police will be doing to basically increase enforcement with the truck problem that we have in the district with the double parking and just parking generally in residential neighborhoods?
Yeah, so that's always going to be difficult. With deliveries, I'm assuming you're talking about the major commercial areas, people double parking on 3rd Avenue, creating traffic disasters. Obviously, it's something that we address as we see it. We get the traffic agents, we request that they're into those busier areas also. If you have specific locations that need special attention besides the obvious ones, like I just mentioned, let us know. And we do have a traffic team that does do that enforcement. And if there are places that we can use different traffic agents, we try to avoid the police doing parking type violations because they're better served, dealing with, stuff like quality of life, people using drugs or urinating or stuff like that, where we do have traffic agents that could write summonses. And then if it gets to the point, we could have cars towed and stuff. But if you have specific areas, it's something, we could target. Like I said, again, this isn't something where we could be on every block and be writing and towing every single car. We just don't have the resources to do it. But if you give me specific locations that you'd like us to concentrate on during the summer, we will definitely do that.
Thank you. Mr. Jordan, you have the floor, and then we'll move the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be very brief. Thank you, Inspector. I want to say that we, as soon as I got appointed to this position, you and your team has been extremely responsive to our requests for conversations. Some are very direct and blunt about where we feel as a community the issues are. In your work and career in NYPD, the police officers cannot do it by themselves. It takes a team of communities, members and leaders to be bold and be able to communicate as much as possible about where the issues are and hold each other accountable to ensuring that public safety maintains to be a issue that is always taken up and taken seriously as far as this community board is perceived. I wanted to ask you a question about the special units that the NYPD has at its disposal around, especially around Patrol Borough Bronx and around the gun violence response team. And as we tend to get in the very warm seasons, there seem to be concerns that some of the indicators unfortunately go into the wrong direction. Can you talk, without being specific, of course, where you are going to be targeting your precinct's resources while they're very thin to ensure that we keep the downward trend of indicators during the upcoming season?
Okay, so like I had mentioned, our two biggest priorities, just based on historical violence, narcotics and stuff like that, is the Diego Beekman area and the Mott Haven Patterson area. Those are areas we're always going to cover. We're always going to add additional resources there. There are known gangs that operate in those areas that we know, and we have members identified, and that's the people that we're targeting. Melrose Jackson is always another area where we have a lot of gang activity, a lot of youth that are driving, the violence and the quality of life issues. I would say those are the three major areas where I can almost guarantee you're going to see additional resources over the summer. And then again, there'll be places that sometimes, will come out of nowhere. Sometimes we'll have Millbrook, we'll have something going on. We have Mitchell, we have St. Mary's, Adams houses. So there's a lot of housing developments. There's a lot of gang activity in and around some of these housing developments. And when we do identify it, or, conditions change and there are incidents of shots fired or shootings, we move them around, basically in real time. But I'd say those three areas that I mentioned, Melrose Jackson houses, Diego Beekman, and Mott Haven Patterson.
Okay, so thank you for that. And I have one final question for you because it keeps coming up. And I think it's safe to say that you have the 40th precinct, without naming specific areas, have always deployed the necessary resources over the summer where it's necessary, based on what is taking place in real time. That being said, I have one final question, and it is from Michael Johnson from South Bronx Unite, and he has been asking for quite some time about traffic control at the Madison Avenue Bridge leaving and entering the Bronx. He's saying that traffic control, and I don't know that the police department would be responsible for this, but he's saying that traffic control is badly needed there, and he's saying the parking of police officers' private vehicles in crosswalks are a serious public safety issue. And I actually have driven through there and cited that as an area of concern, because the manner in which the patrol cars are now parking, you've expanded the head-in parking from just Alexander Avenue now across to where the precinct is sited, to the side where St. Jerome's is, going all the way up to 138th Street. And, it is really unsightly there. And can you just give us some idea of what can be done to clean that up so that it is, you know, not looking the way it does and does not present a public safety question, and answer the questions in that order, and then we can,
So
you know,
Madison
begin to-
Avenue Bridge is a disaster because of the construction over there.
Yeah,
We can definitely put in a request to have traffic agents, especially during the rush hours and stuff. I totally agree. I actually come into work that way myself over the Madison Avenue. Like I said, there's just so much going on with the construction. It's a nightmare with the turns. The additional parking that you're mentioning on the street now going towards Willis Avenue,
yep,
new because they took away our parking on the other side. Transit is doing a major project. If you come down the block on the other side, all the cars are cleared off of
Gotcha.
138th Street down to 3rd Avenue. So what
Right.
they did was they moved our parking from there because it was taken away because of transit onto the other side. The problem is, and this is the reason we have a new precinct being built, is the precinct has so outgrown the neighborhood and around it, we just don't have anywhere to put anyone. With additional resources and additional cops come additional cop cars, and they have additional people that are coming in. Like we've just, the neighborhood has expanded so much, and the police department itself has expanded too much. We just don't have anywhere to put anyone. Trust me, it infuriates me when I come in and I see a cop's private car parked in the crosswalk. The first thing I do is I go into the precinct and I say, "Whose car is this?" Go tell them to move it. I am with your frustrations. But there's also, sometimes if someone's late, they come in, they'll put it there and they'll run in, get to the roll call, and then they'll go out and move it. So if you see it at a bad time,
Mr. Tompkins, is this a temporary issue?
yes, it is. So
Okay.
they're saying in August, we'll have our parking back on the other side.
And so all of that will be cleared up?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
All that on 138 towards Willis will be cleared up by all.
Mr. District Manager, can you please reach out to DYCD? Because they are having, as I previously said, such an enormous impact on the district with the project that they're engaging in, and have them appear before the next Municipal Service Committee meeting, because they're ripping up roads all over the district, and then they're leaving the roads in poor condition afterwards once they do the infill. Mr. Tompkins?
And Arlene, one more thing that I must mention, because we talk about the parking, we talk about the space and everything. We have a brand new precinct that is built. It's on 149 in St. It's on 149 in St. Anne's. There's a parking lot that it'll alleviate a lot of problems around the area. Maybe a little political pressure to get that going. It's been a long time that's waiting for.
Okay, so we'll get a status update on the construction of the precinct so that we can all celebrate the finalization of that. We'll follow up in that regard. And Deputy Inspector, I want to thank you for coming and giving us a comprehensive report tonight. And as always, you're always welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. The next item on the agenda is PSA 7 Housing Bureau Police. Is there anyone here from the PSA 7?
Hey, good afternoon. It's Captain Heron, the Executive Officer of PSA 7 on behalf of Inspector Moya. How is everybody?
Great, you have the forum.
Thank you. I just want to thank you for giving me a few minutes to come on tonight. I've been assigned here about a year. I actually started my career in the 4O like 18 years ago, so it's kind of nice to be back, where I started. Basically, everything we're seeing in PSA 7 goes along with what Inspector Tompkins just said. One shooting is obviously too many, but we are down 3 less shooting incidents this year over last year. The latest one over on 152 was a gang thing. We hope to make an arrest in that in the near future. The other thing, like he said, is the grand larcenies. We have, for this 28-day, we have 7 vehicles. 2 of them were scooters and the other 5 were Kias. So like the inspector said, if you have a Kia, there's updates for that. There's upgrades for that to fix the key so they're not as easily stolen. And then the only really other thing I have is, along with him, we're happy that today and starting, they'll be on the street on Sunday. We received 10 new officers straight out of the academy. So you'll see them out in development starting on Sunday.
Okay. All right. Does that complete your report?
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, I'll take questions.
Yeah. Okay, at this time, any board member that has a question, please raise your hand. Anyone? Ms. Ortiz? Anyone? Okay. There are no questions? And so at this time,
Hold on just 1 minute. Very quickly, yeah.
okay, you have the floor, Ms. Ortiz.
Okay, obviously, and I know that you're dealing particularly with the Melrose Jackson houses, which is
Right.
our neighborhood, literally speaking. And there has been a very big concern, number one, with the smoke shops in the area that affects so many of those tenants within the Jackson Melrose region. Okay. But as far as the safety issue in these buildings, okay, what exactly are you doing with the type of hangout crowds that are happening right in front of these buildings? Okay. At 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning, there is music blasting out loud, especially when the weather gets warmer. That has become a major issue. And I know that there have been a lot of complaints about it towards the precinct. Okay. One of the neighbors said that they keep telling her to call 311 about the noise ordinance, but that is to no avail. So how can precinct number 7 start to curtail that? And what are some of the efforts that are being made regarding that issue? Thank you.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I'm going to point that issue to the deputy inspector versus the PSA who handles directly for housing.
Mr. District Manager, the question is to the PSA because her specific issue, since she is from NYCHA, and she's been talking about those issues, I would like for him to be able to address it.
Yeah, so I will, I'll look into that. I'll definitely have my NCOs that target that area work a little later of a tour and come through Melrose and Jackson and take a look at it. I also have the HRT, which works for housing as well, and they work until right about that time. So I'll have them check it out before they come in for the night.
Okay, because especially now that the weather is getting warmer, that noise situation, especially at 2 o'clock and in the middle of the night, has become a very big issue. And I know that the crime level is up in the area. Okay, so those are concerns that affect, again, especially as the season starts to get warmer. Okay.
Okay. Yep. We'll address that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your your question. So, does anybody else from the board have a question?
Arlene,
Yes, Patricia Simpson.
Ms. Simpson, you have the forum.
Yes. I like to see more NCOs in Patterson houses. I don't see them at all anymore. And I need them to start doing verticals because we have people, the homeless people are living in the building on the roof. And they're also shutting down the roof doors with ropes so that no one can come through the roof. The police won't come through the roof, but anybody will come through the roof. And they have mattresses and everything else in the hallway. I've reported it, but it's still going on.
So, can you respond? I think that is generally a concern throughout NYCHA, the presence by PSA 7 and doing the verticals throughout the district. Of course, there is homeless people the population who are loitering or hanging out for whatever reason in their public spaces and hanging out, all throughout the buildings, making it generally unsafe. So can you address that? Is there an initiative or something that, especially in the upcoming summer months, that PSA 7 can do to give our NYCHA community assurances what you are doing to around that area of public safety?
Sure. So yes, we do joint efforts with Department of Homeless Services. They go in when there's complaints and they clean up things. As far as that specific development, I know we did one just up in the north end of the command. I'll look into when we can do one down by Patterson. But for right now, I'll also reach out to the NCOs as well as my my FTUs, which are on the ground, the foot patrol, and I'll have them in that area as well. They're going to be in Mott Haven, but I'll have them head over to Patterson as well and take a look.
Yeah, they have to remove the couple that's living on the 6th floor in the building. They have a mattress and all their personal belongings up there.
Okay, I'll reach out to them as soon as right when we're done with this call.
Okay, so Mr. York, you have the forum, and then, we'll move the agenda.
First, can you hear me? Because this thing has been
Yes,
breaking
we
up.
hear you.
Okay, this has to do with right now this move to 98 because there was an incident a couple of, I think like 3 weeks ago, which somebody that was experiencing a mental situation, he was shot by the cops. So I just wanted to know if there is like education or something that's transitioning to 98 with some of the officers, so people are aware that they don't have to call 911, they could call 98. Is there something like that?
If you want to give me a call, I'll put my phone number in the chat after that to talk about that. I'm not really familiar with that incident you're speaking of as of late, but if you want to give me a call, put my number in the chat and we can talk about that.
Okay, so, thank you. Mr. Hareen, is there a public affairs or a person that you have designated for the NYCHA community that they can call and reach out to when
Sure.
they have special, and could you put that in the chat?
I'll put
so
her
that
name and number in the chat as well.
Community residents and our NYCHA community can contact that individual to work with you on specific problems they're having in their development. That would be excellent.
Absolutely. I'll put her number. It's Detective Rivera. I'll put her number in the chat as well.
Excellent. Mr. District Manager, you have the last comment or questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So to all the board members, again, I want to thank our commanding officers for PSA 7 and for the 40th precinct to be present. And like I said, going forward, we're going to make this an effort so that they will, or members of their team will be present during all of our community board meetings as we continue to discuss public safety issues as they come up or arise. And in addition to that, I want to make the board aware that we also are going to have the commanding officer for traffic enforcement, which is part of the NYPD, also make themselves available so that we can be able to also point out where there may be issues around traffic congestion. The chair has been definitely working extremely close with the Department of Transportation and with traffic enforcement to ensure that we talk about the congestion issues as they have been identified throughout the district. We have done a brief analysis of some areas where they are at, and we're continuously evaluating that. And we're working also at the chair's request to ensure that the borough commissioner for the Department of Transportation makes himself available as we begin to now analyze the issues around traffic congestion in the district. So again, thank you to the captain and the deputy inspector, and we look forward to your continued partnership with this board and this office to ensure that we focus on the issues going forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Okay, so now we're going to move the agenda into regarding committee reports, item number 9. The first committee report is Economic Development, Land Use, and Housing, which has a voting item. Mr. Perez, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the Economic Development and Land Use Housing Committee meeting was held at Lincoln Hospital on Wednesday, March the 12th, 5:30. The committee established quorum. Thanks to I want to make sure that I acknowledge her. Thanks to Miss Brenda Goodwin, who recognized that I've been having a problem establishing quorum for this committee, and she asked her committee members to remain at the hospital and help me acquire quorum. We did. So again, thank you to Chairwoman Brenda Goodwin from the Health Committee and her members. That night, we had 2 presentations. One was by Mr. Edward Poteet, representing Carthage Real Estate Advisors, LLC, and Unique People Services, which is the voting item you just described, for the construction and operation of a 10-story, 106-unit building on 431, 439 Concord Avenue. During their presentation, they stated that the building would be 100% affordable housing with units at 60% AMI or lower, financing coming from a number of institutions, HDR, SHOP, HPD, federal low-income housing credits, and some grants. The most important part here is the population of the tenants, as described by the presenters, were single individuals with mental health illness. Many concerns by the board members range in categories of parking, client episodes at the site, safety for other tenants because it'll be mixed use. They will be renting to other tenants that don't have any type of ailments. So safety for the tenants, security, shadows created by the height of the building in comparison to the rest of the neighborhood. The construction cost would be $70 million. Construction was to begin the third quarter of 2024 and completed by the end of 2026. A roll call vote was taken, and as a result, the results were 14 nays, 3 abstentions, and the request for a letter of support was denied by the committee. That concludes my first report. Madam Chair, do we have to take a vote? The full board takes a vote on this?
So at this particular point in time, it's a recommendation of the Economic Development Committee to the full board that we do not support that project. Is that correct?
That is correct. The letter of support was denied by a roll call vote by the committee.
So at this time, is there any questions regarding this particular matter before we call a motion on the vote as presented by the chair of the Economic Development Committee? Is there any questions or concerns from the board? Okay, is there a motion from board members regarding not granting a letter of support to those developers? Is there a motion?
Audrey Dasso's motion not to support.
Is there a second?
I second, Madam Chair.
Christine
Okay.
Carter.
Okay. All those board members in favor of not granting the letter of support to the developer, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition to the motion? Any abstentions?
I abstain, Caesar.
Got you. Is there any other abstentions? Let the
Yes,
rest.
Ambrose did.
Ambrose, so there's 2 abstentions.
And I also abstain, Madam Chair.
Three. Is there any further abstentions? Let the record reflect that the motion carried not to grant the letter of support to the developer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the second presenter was Ms. Tori Lyon, the Jericho project. And this was for informational purposes. This project is it's at 450 East 158th Street, an 84-unit building, and 407, 409 East 158th Street, a 45-unit building, both to be 100% affordable, of which 78 units will be for supportive housing and 50 units of low-income housing. The population for the supportive unit will be single adults 18 to 25. They'll have 24-hour security, community rooms, rooftop solar installations, outdoor rec space. The population will receive healthcare coordination, educational assistance, job readiness programs. They made many claims. Let me just state that at the end of the presentation, frustration from the community was visibly present by the amount of neighbors and homeowners who were allowed to speak. They stated that the presenters never engaged them. They felt betrayed by their local elected officials and were completely blindsided by the project. They feel this is not the correct location for this type of project. The presenters were very vague during their presentation, and various questions were never answered or were not provided with their handout. We requested that they forward this information to the district manager. I will now ask the district manager and maybe elaborate if he received any further information regarding this project. After he does elaborate, if he has any other information, that will conclude my report, Madam Chair.
So, Mr. District Manager, You have the forum. Can you please give us an update on where we are in regards to this particular matter?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to do so. The chair of the committee and the district manager, along with Chairperson Parks, was provided with additional information regarding this project relating to the financial information that we requested, and I would share that information momentarily. Give me a second, please, Madam Chair. We'll follow up. I would follow up to the request of the information that wasn't provided originally, as requested on Monday, April 24th at 5:49 p.m. The community board received additional information regarding the funding source and the layout and including the permanent financing that was secured for the project. The development fund company, the entity that was set up is called the East 158th Street Affordable Owners LLC, which is a joint venture between the Jericho Project, which is a nonprofit, and the Asthma Development Group LLC, which is the property owner and developer. As mentioned, the developer is Asthma Group controlled entity, and Econia owns both development sites as mentioned in proposal. The architect is Ashgond Architects LLC. The project general contractor was Baron Construction 158 LLC, and the property will be managed by the Jericho Project. The construction financing secured for the project is through the New York State Housing Finance Agency, also known as HFA, using a 4% tax-exempt bond. New York State Department of Homes and Community Renewal, also known as HCR, providing funding to the Supportive Housing Opportunity Program. The New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development, also known as HPD, will provide a supportive housing loan through the Supportive Housing Loan Program. And it will be using low-income housing tax credit, LIHTC equity. The permanent financing is HFA 4% tax-exempt bond, as I mentioned, and the rest of the other financing. In addition, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen, the other additional financing is being supported through City Council Discretionary Fund Resolution A dollars by the Office of City Council Member Rafael Satamaca.
Madam Chair, if I may just add something to that. I omitted this, but I think it's important to make sure everyone knows. I have a copy of one of the questions that was asked, the asbestos report. So the asbestos assessment report says the asbestos abatement was completed in December of 2022, and the person signing, certifying the abatement is an investigator with the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, and he claims no ACM remains in the building, and the building is deemed asbestos-free. So I just wanted to make sure, I know there's people from the community listening in and people in the neighborhood that live there. Demolition has already begun. So in this part, they can feel comfortable that there's no asbestos remaining in that location.
Okay, so
Madam Chair, when I can finish my my additional information that we received, or would you like me to conclude?
no, please.
I'm sorry, I didn't know he wasn't done. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, please continue. I just want to make sure that, we have the main points and what, as a community board, are our next steps
Sure.
with respect to the matter.
Sure, Madam Chair, I'll be very brief with my comments. The project will be funded via a combination of low-income tax credits, as I mentioned, tax-exempt bonds, and subsidy loans to New York State HCR, in addition to subsidy loans from NYC 1515 rental assistance through New York City HPD and New York City 1515 services assistance through the New York City Human Resources Administration, otherwise known as HRA, and the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, DOHMH. And as we wanted to conclude, Madam Chair, that the estimated project cost is estimated to be, but is currently at 38.4, but totaling $68.5 million. There is no zoning existing regulations in place, and no additional parking is going to be added. In addition to that, Madam Chair, the board is in possession of the complete architectural plans that are going to be proposed for the space. Again, space is being proposed as affordable low-income housing. That concludes
So just
the
for
additional
the
information.
purposes of clarification to the board members and to any community resident that's listening, the property is as of right, and the developer owns the property. However, as the district manager just stated, there's a significant amount of tax-paying public dollars that are being used to build this housing. There is the issue of the neighborhood being developed as homeowners all up and down Elton Avenue. They are extremely upset that this development is being put in their neighborhood, disrupted. They feel it will be a disruption to their quality of life. They feel that the building is out of scale with the rest of what was there, and has been there for quite some time. And they feel like they have been left out of the decision-making process. Now, you earlier informed us, and the other thing is, there was a church that was there from 1878 that was purchased, that was also torn down, that the community was working very passionately on to try to get landmarked. So now, what discussions are taking place with respect to the neighborhood and the homeowners there who are going to be impacted by this development, and the city council person who represents them? Mr. District Manager, I believe you gave us a report that they're meeting with him.
Thank you, Madam
Yeah.
Chair. So that was my understanding. There was a meeting with the city council member and members of the community. The community board was not part of that conversation, and so I leave it to your wisdom to, if you want to call into public session or comments about that. And I believe there may be some members of the community on the call.
No, that's
up
fine.
to
We
you.
need to find out, because the recommendation would have been for the community board to write a letter, because it's tax levy monies, to opine on the project. And basically make the recommendation that that the councilmen work together with the neighborhood residents who are impacted in that neighborhood or in that community, so that something is built there that they feel comfortable with, like affordable housing there, as compared to the project that is going there. So is that an option at this point? I'm asking, Mr. District Manager, Mr. Chair. Do we?
So
Yeah.
I may start, and then the chair could pick up, Madam Chair, that it is, I will follow whatever the decision of the board is on this particular issue, whether or not there's a letter that the board wishes to draft to the funders and the council member, or to the council member specifically on this issue. I'll follow the directive of the board.
So, Mr. Perez, what is your recommendation to the board?
My recommendation is that we write a letter to the local elected official, which is Councilman Salamanca, expressing the concerns of the board and the community regarding this project. We're not happy, they're not happy, and maybe the council member with the developers can restructure or redesign what type of project this should be. Now, I have to say that they're already digging up that hole. My office is around the corner.
Mhm.
So time is important. Time is of essence here. Let's shoot out that letter as soon as possible.
So let's make a motion in regards to this matter. What would the motion look like? Can we get a motion um, from the floor in regarding to send a letter? And it is customary that even though a project is as of right, that if tax-paying money is being used to build that project, the community board should always opine and give and act in our capacity as advisory, especially if it's impacting community. So what would be the motion? Is there a motion?
I believe, Madam Chair, the motion would be for Community Board 1 to send a letter to our local elected official requesting that the project at 158th Street,
The Jericho project
Jericho
on
project,
Elton Avenue, yes.
be considered for some sort of modification in terms of maybe height, population,
Mhm.
and engage the residents and homeowners of that particular neighborhood to address their concerns.
Is there a second to the motion?
I second that second.
Okay, we can only have one at a time. Can you say your name?
Linda Gaines, that's second.
Okay, Ms. Gaines, thank you for that second of the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay,
Aye.
is there any oppositions to the motion? Any abstention? Let the record reflect that the motion carried and Community Board 1 will write that letter requesting, that we work with community and the council person for the district to see what can be done to, have a project there that the homeowners and the people who invested dollars in that neighborhood for the last 2 decades get something there that they all can be proud of in their neighborhood. Let's move the agenda. Thank you. Does that conclude your report, Mr. Perez?
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you for that. The next committee report is Education and Youth. Is there, can we get a report around from the Youth Committee?
Chair, Mr. Imani is excused from today's meeting.
Is someone else that can give his report from the committee? So that being said, I will ask all of the board members to review his report. And if you have any questions in regards to his report, please feel free to call the district manager up. Feel free to call Mr. Yamati up. And certainly, as always, any questions that anybody has in regards to any matter, you may call me at any time or email me.
Can I have
The
your
next,
number? I'm sorry.
who's that, please?
Hi, it's Diana. I was having some
Diana, are
technical
you
issues earlier.
you're a community resident?
Yes.
Okay. I can be reached at 718
718
585 7117. You call there and you can connect with me anytime.
I'm sorry, you said 585
It's in the chat.
Okay.
585 7117.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. Okay. Ms. Goodwin, Chair of the Health
Yes.
Human Services, can you give your report tonight,
Yes.
please?
My report will be brief, just as you previously said about the other committee. I asked Annie specifically, and she did, to make sure all members got my report. Cardinal McCluskey was the presenter. They left outreach numbers for them to be reached if there were any questions. At this time, I'd like to, as you said, we can also be reached if anybody has any questions about that meeting. My committee, I'd like to thank them at this time. They stayed for 2 meetings. United We Stand, and that is my report.
Does anybody have any questions of Ms. Goodwin in regards to her report? Okay, thank you, Ms. Goodwin.
Thank you.
All right, the last committee report, and that has a voting item, is municipal services.
Hi, good evening, everyone. We had a Miss Leonardo from the Breaking Ground Property Management. She attended the Municipal Services Committee meeting on March 10, requesting a letter of support for 2 to 3 drop-off spaces at their 445 East 142nd Street property to accommodate emergency response vehicles, ambulance and delivery services, and additional deliveries in between the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. The committee members present voted against giving the letter of support due to the current traffic concerns in the area. Now, Madam Chair, I'm asking you, should we vote on this item now, or what do you suggest?
So what is specifically, can you repeat what the voting item is in regards to? Just Mr. District Manager, can you provide some clarification on the matter that's being presented to the board for consideration at this time?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, and as the committee chair mentioned, the organization asks for a letter of support for their petition to the Department of Transportation to reserve 3 parking spaces on the outstanding zone in order for loading and unloading for emergency vehicles and ambulances in front, or either accessorized in front of their business. During the
Common, I'm sorry, as a point of clarification, that's common ground.
ground.
Okay, continue, please.
And so the ask was for a letter of recommendation or support, a letter of support to the Department of Transportation to put no parking so that they can be able to use those 3 spaces in front of their property to be able to be used for emergency responders to pull into that space for their facility, in addition to accessorize. And that would likely help to alleviate, this is the presenter asking, saying they would help alleviate, which was the then traffic congestion because of the double parking, usually for people who are going in and out to their facility. The committee voted not to support a letter of support for that particular ask.
So Ms. Chamorro, your committee, you're making the recommendation to the board not to support, based on the work that the committee did, not to support their the Common Grounds request. Is that correct, Ms. Chamorro?
No, I want to make, I want them to support the request. The only way to know for sure whether the traffic concern is going to be remedied is if we try giving them the 2 to 3 spaces and see how that goes.
And that was the recommendation and the vote of the committee?
No, the committee voted against giving them a support letter. I'm asking.
So we have to abide by the wishes of the committee.
Okay.
Right. So is Ms. Burns here tonight? Because I believe she lives on that block and she's a member of the CAB for Common Ground.
No, she's not.
Okay. So the wishes of the committee was not to grant the request.
Correct.
Okay. So can we have a motion in that regard?
Chair, there's a raised hand before the motion. Carissa.
Madam Chair, I have a question when you get a chance, please.
Okay, so Ms. Goodwin, you have the forum before we call the motion.
Exactly where is this site at?
So can you clarify the actual location of where the site is at, Mr. District Manager?
We'll pull it up. Give me a second, Madam Chair.
It's in 142nd
This is Heather
Street.
Leonardo from
Kansas.
Breaking Ground. I'm
Wait,
sorry.
you haven't been recognized, and we're trying. We'll recognize you as quickly as we can.
The space is on 142nd Street between Willis and Brook Avenues.
Willis and Brook.
Isn't that where Belvis is at?
No, no, not at all. There's nowhere near there.
Oh, okay, okay. I got the wrong location.
Going towards Mojave Projects.
Oh, okay.
Right. So,
I got it.
Ms. De Jesus, you have the forum at this time.
So are they asking for permanent space there or temporary space?
Permanent.
Thank you.
Okay.
And it's one more name, Madam Chair, Carissa Aliato. And then Mr. Freddie Perez is next, Madam Chair.
Okay, so Clarissa, you have the forum, ma'am.
I have a quick question. Do we know the reasons why they didn't support this, the letter of support? Why the committee didn't support?
Good question.
It was due to traffic concerns.
Anything specific or just?
No, just traffic concerns in general. A lot of traffic, noise, just to that effect.
So, Ms. Chamorro, how would giving 3 parking spots so that they're not double parking
exactly
cause traffic congestion there? What was the
exactly
the double park cars? I'm gonna assume it was one of the biggest concerns there. The double park cars, it was blocking traffic. If we can give them the 3 spaces, I think it would eliminate double park cars, being that they're either dropping off the residents, picking up, or whatever it is that's taking place at that particular location.
I doubt that very much.
Oh, who spoke, please? I will ask that you recognize the decorum and ask to be recognized so that, you know, we all can understand what is taking place and can take your comments into consideration before motion is carried. Clarissa, Ms. Aliato, you have the forum again, please.
I would assume that those parking spaces would help to alleviate the traffic if you do have ambulance, if you do have people who need wheelchairs. That would help to alleviate, instead of what we will, if we don't allow that, what we'll have is ambulance causing traffic while cars are parked.
Right.
And I think that would make matters worse.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, I'd like to add to the discussion once we recognize Mr. Perez, who has his hand raised, ma'am.
Yes. Mr. Perez, you have the forum. You're on mute. Unmute yourself, please.
Sorry. So maybe instead of 3, and my question was the same as Ms. Alayeto, so I was able to omit, but then I thought, okay, so you won't give them 3. Maybe we can, with the 1, I don't know if that's a possibility, because eliminating the parking will alleviate the problem that they're having there. Okay, so I agree with that. So I don't know, because the committee already voted no. So I don't know.
No, they didn't. The motion was never put on the floor.
Oh, the motion was never put on. So sometimes compromising, everybody wins. Just my take on
Or, just taking into consideration the comments and, and voting accordingly. Ms. De Jesus will take your last question, and Mr. Diem will basically let you make a comment so we can call the motion. Oh, and Ambrose will recognize you. Ms. De Jesus, you have the forum.
When they proposed this, did they take into consideration about the parking before this meeting?
So I can tell you that I met with concerned homeowners on the block and with Common Ground. And one of the issues that they all agreed was that they needed to do something to stop the double parking, because their residents were coming and double parking and actually parking in the homeowners' spaces. Right. And there were recommendations for there to be traffic from Common Ground around the corner And it's my understanding, because there's a daycare center there, that was not an option. But something does need to be done because of the traffic congestion that's being caused by people who are moving in, because it's a senior citizen building, where you may have to have ambulances come in and out of there. So they do need the parking there, and that would help to alleviate the traffic. And it's also what we were able to come to an agreement on was an establishment of a neighborhood citizens advisory board to meet with the neighborhood homeowners to address ongoing problems that, occurred there. So, I hope that answers your question. I think that we should do something to alleviate the traffic issue there. And I can understand why Ms. Chamorro is recommending that something is done there to the board. Mr. Ambrose, you have a question that you would like to add to the forum?
Oh, Madam Chair, I just don't recall, but I think that we had I don't recall a specific issue, but I think Ms. Byrne has raised some issue. That was the reason why we turned that down, because really the whole story has to be told for somebody that live in the neighborhood. Logically, yes, the 3 parking space will alleviate the problem, but I think there were other issues that was really raised that led to that refusal of issuing that.
So
we cannot.
Can you articulate to the board, before we cast a vote on the matter, what were the other concerns?
That is what I do not really recall very well. I don't remember exactly what, but I know we did have an intensive
District manager
conversation on
that led to them saying no to the parking?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen. So as we understand the traffic congestion issues around the 142nd Street between Willis and Brook Avenues, it's exacerbated for so many reasons. One being the issue of the concerns around Pacific site, but we know we have a school there of teachers who park during school hours along that area too, and the frustration of the residents and the homeowners who live in that neighborhood, who have been ticketed by the Department of Sanitation for multiple times over a period of time because of folks not wanting to move their car or being stuck from moving because of the double parking and et cetera that do that in that area. So to add to that concern, where the chair is so elegantly, I want to say, Madam Chair, try to be able to chair the conversation around not only that issue, but that it was exacerbated by enormous of traffic related issues for that particular space. And as I mentioned previously in conversations with leadership of the board, it was even evaluated whether or not the other space that is on, I believe, 142nd between Willis and Brook, where we understand will be a daycare provider, will be using that space, and it's not available to the residents in that building to try to figure out another way to alleviate, because that issue, that was a no-go. We know that 142nd between Willis and Brook is already very narrow, and we have several residents, which are homeowners, residents who are tenement buildings. We have businesses, we have the religious institution that's there. So many things that are going on in that very small, short block that cause, I believe, conflict amongst that whole issue. So, in adding what you were saying, the issue you was working to alleviate what Breaking Ground and the residents, together with that, along with the Department of Education employees who unfortunately do not move their cars during teaching hours, and built on top of that, the Department of Sanitation not being able to clean, and the residents being ticketed for not having their curbside clean. I think that contribute to the committee overwhelmingly, unfortunately, voting down altogether that letter of
I hear
support.
you. So just as to clarify for the board, with respect to this matter, I think that we need to be trying to solve problems where we can. We know that there's a significant problem there, and where we can, we got to tackle these problems one step at a time. There's multiple issues there. So I think that for starters, that is a fairly large building that is there serving senior citizens, and they need some space where they can park for an emergency that will not clog up the traffic for anyone else that needs to get through. So it seems to me like giving a letter of support for the parking is the prudent thing to do. And maybe the resolution is also to contact the school and enforcement to make sure that enforcement is doing their job to go there and do the enforcement to stop the teachers from double parking on that narrow block there. Right? And at the same time, there was a third issue that you said there are 3 separate issues there. What's the third issue? Okay. So
That's
at
the
a
Madam Chair
minimum,
or the committee chair.
so what was the third issue, Ms. Chamorro, if you could help us out here? Because I want to make sure that whatever motion is on the floor, we are, as a board, trying to attack or solve the problems for that neighborhood that everybody can live with there.
I think the district manager already said what the issues were, all the concerns.
Okay, got you. So can we have a motion at this time to basically, in regards to this matter, that would solve some of the issues that they're having, I think, over there for safety reasons, first and foremost, because that is a very narrow street. It is a heavily trafficked area. And I do think that we need to get with enforcement there to make sure that they are targeting that specific area to keep that block clear. And that would be a great first step there. And at the same time, we need to contact the school there and send them and, have a discussion with them about, the safety issues we're having there. So please, can I have a motion from a board member in regard to this particular matter?
I, Clarissa Alayeto, make a motion.
And the motion specifically is to grant the 3 parking spaces and to contact the school and the traffic enforcement to alleviate traffic congestion at that particular location.
Correct.
I, Mohammed Sheikh, make the second.
Ms. Chamorro, the
Yes.
motion that is presented, is that sufficient for the committee? For you
Can-
as the chair?
Is it possible for us to check to see, like in 6 months, if it's actually working or if it's not working?
Well,
Just as a
once the
follow-up?
motion is granted and they issue the parking spots,
Yeah.
you know, they're not going to undo it, but I would recommend that we check back with the homeowners. They have a neighborhood association there.
Yes.
And Ms. Josephine Burns is a board member. And we basically, and she's on your committee, and we work with her very diligently to ensure that the issue has since been resolved. So there was a motion by Clarissa, and it was seconded.
Mohammed Sheikh, make the second motion.
Okay, so there was someone else who seconded. Can you repeat your name, please?
Mohammed Sheikh, I make the second motion, please.
Okay.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any abstentions to the motion?
Aye.
Abstention.
I'm sorry, any oppositions to the motion?
Yeah. Audrey Jesus, opposition.
Gotcha. Any other opposition to the motion?
No, abstention or opposition?
I'm sorry, opposition first. We're calling all those who are in opposition to the motion. Any abstention? So we had Audrey De Jesus, who's abstaining from the vote. Anybody else?
Ambrose abstained for the vote too.
Okay, got you. Anybody else who's abstaining from the vote? Let the record reflect that the motion carried. Can I now have, that completes all of the reports by the committee, the district manager, and the chair. Can I have a motion from the board members to accept all of the reports that have been presented tonight to tonight's community board meeting? Is there a motion?
Ambrose make a motion.
To
Wait.
accept all the minutes.
So who was that spoke? Can you please say your name, please?
Linda Gaines.
Okay, Ms. Gaines, you made a motion. Is there a second?
I, Kavanaugh Chamorro, second it.
Okay, Ms. So the motion to accept the reports that was presented at tonight's meeting, there was a motion. Can we have all those in favor signify by saying aye?
Aye.
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 Any
Aye.
oppositions? Anyone opposing? Any abstention? Let the record reflect that the motion carried to accept all of the reports
On vote to 75.
as presented. Okay. We're now, item number 10 on the agenda is the elected officials' reports. Is there anyone here from the Honorable Mayor's Office, Eric Adams?
Yes, good evening. This is Leonardo Coelho, Bronx Director for the Mayor's Office. How's everyone doing tonight?
Good, welcome.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you. So I have just one quick item that the mayor wanted me to bring up. I sent an email out to all the community boards regarding the NST program. It's the neighborhood support team, and basically what it is, it's a link that anybody in the community can fill out, and it asks for folks to highlight anything that's impacting any quality of life issues in their community. And basically, if we get enough entries on a particular item, the mayor's office will be then putting together kind of like a interagency task force to address that particular issue. And so the important thing though is that there's a deadline for May 31st for this, and so I would really implore everyone to really kind of select something that is probably of their highest importance in their area and get as many folks to fill out this link, so it can be selected as one of the items to be focused on the NST projects. That pretty much sums up the report from the mayor's office, if nobody has any questions.
So Mr. Coelho, just as a point of clarification, this morning, we were presented with this initiative, and actually after understanding it better, it's exciting, but it has to be done in cooperation with key community groups like the community board and other nonprofit organizations. And it's my understanding that they will select certain community boards or organizations to participate in this initiative, and then work with the selected groups, I think about 5 or so, who's going to be selected to basically focus all of the resources in cleaning up quality of life issues. And Mr. District Manager, can you further provide clarification on it? Because this is something that is super critical, especially to our portion of the district, because we have so many issues here. I want to make sure that our board is going to respond, and we're doing it in connection with community residents so that we could actually win and be selected. Go ahead, Mr. District Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, and adding what the representative for the mayor's office and then chair talked about, this is an opportunity for the community board to not opine, but also to engage the community at large on an issue that doesn't only um, come from one only city agency that's going to be working. It's going to be, we should think of a project that's going to consist of working with multiple city agencies
Correct.
under the mayor's administration that to be able to work on an issue. So they gave an opinion about graffiti. If you see graffiti being an issue, if you see other issues, but you like the chair talked about, and my colleague Leonardo talked about, we have to be innovative, thoughtful, and strategic about what we want to submit and work on. This is a very competitive process,
Yep.
and we've been working with our other colleagues throughout the other community boards throughout the borough. But we should think also where our partners will come from. We have a lot of great nonprofits that are in the area that are doing a lot of great work, so that we are all not stepping on each other's toes and fingers. This is why we should be strategic. So if you have ideas, we would love to hear them. I have Leonardo's, I'm sure, is going to put the information in the chat about how to look over what the process would be. But you should think about this as a project. We're working together with the community board, and again, like I said, of other nonprofits. So please be thoughtful, be strategic, be comprehensive. This is going to be the wow moment where this administration is going to put its entire resources to bear through multiple city agencies to help make a strong impact that we need to make in this district. And so I thank the mayor's office, and I think everyone else who, especially our committee chairs, to the thinking of what we're going to be putting forward with our colleagues in the borough president's office and the other community boards.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Mr. Coelho, for raising it. It's an opportunity that should not be missed. Now that we all have a understanding to solve a lot of the quality of life issues and get resources directed in the neighborhoods that we live in. So again, we'll get the information out to you. If you could provide your thoughts to the community board so that we could submit a well thought out submission to get our community selected, it would be greatly appreciated. We're all in this together. So please, I'm hopeful that we can work together to solve all the issues that we all have in the district, and can work in a very cohesive manner to get it done. The last, I'm going to recognize Ms. Ortiz, and then we're going to move the agenda.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. I was just going to ask for the link to please be placed on the chat, and I see that it just finished getting placed. Thank you, Mr. Jordan.
Okay, Mr. Coelho, thank you for your report tonight. We saw it initially. I had so many questions on it, but the borough president's office at our meeting this morning gave answered a significant amount of questions that we had around the initiative, and we're going to participate, and hopefully this district will get selected to start to really address all of the issues that we have all throughout the district. Thank you for your presentation tonight.
Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone.
All right, so the next elected official report, the Honorable Vanessa Gibson. Is there someone here from the Office of the BP? All right. Good to see you.
Hi, Madam Chair, Sir District Manager. On behalf of the Honorable Vanessa Gibson, it's been my pleasure to report that we've gone over half of the amount of community board interviews. I personally interviewed many people from this board. I will be serving right now as liaison to Community Board 1. And you have a lot of young people, a lot of interested people wanting to be part of the process. They're looking to tackle the technological hurdles and things like that we're processing. I want to also, on behalf, I didn't get to do this the last time, but I want to, on behalf of the borough president, welcome our district manager to being part of the family, and also a bit of due to Miss Annie, who's been a stalwart person at community board. And again, salute the leadership of Ms. Arlene Parks. We're in the process of working with the mayor's office, with different entities in regard to fire safety. As you know, we've lost major supermarkets and created artificial food deserts in areas because of these e-bikes that are mixed matching with their these chargers that cause fires. We're doubling down. We've been in community boards. We've been in community meetings, senior meetings, meetings in NYCHA. We also had a luncheon yesterday for NYCHA leadership, working with them in terms of what's going on with RAD, what's going on with different processes in terms of repairs in buildings. We've been dealing with also maternal health. Infant mortality rates is very high in regards to the Black and Latino population and people of color, especially in the Bronx. We're tackling the food deserts. We want to increase food bucks for people, and increase our farmers markets and CSAs. So these are our ongoing situations. In regards to new development, we're looking at the different MIH mandatory inclusionary housing projects that are going up. We're 50%, 50%. I know that there's a lot of oversaturation in the South Bronx. So they look, as she said, in the state of the borough on May the 1st, on May the 2nd, she's looking to spread it to the other areas too, to stem oversaturation. And she had an iftar, breaking of the fast for our Muslim brothers and sisters, and wishing everyone happy Resurrection Sunday, Easter, and also happy Zis and Pesach, Passover. And that's my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that report. Do we have any board members who have any questions for Mr. Agosto? Okay. Thank you for your report.
Thank you. I look forward to next month's meeting.
Okay. Is there anyone here at this time from the Honorable Congressman Richie Torres's office? Is there anyone here from the Honorable State Senate, from the Honorable Jose Marco Serrano, Senator Serrano?
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Jose Ramon Perez Lopez. I am the Director of Constituent Services, and I would like to share some things about the legislation in Albany. So in March, the Serrano bill was passed. This bill requires cultural awareness and competence training for medical professionals. And there's another thing also that touches our communities. It's the the bill 1608, which is that the bill authorizes farmer markets in state and local parks. So that also, we are talking a lot about food deserts, and through this bill, we hope that in different parts of the Bronx, of our communities, people have access to fresh food through the marketplaces. We're always happy to help our constituents with their housing issues, unemployment. You can always reach out to us in our office at 212-828-5829. I already give my email and the phone number of the office. If anything, please reach out to us. And if you have any questions, I'm ready to answer.
Thank you. Does anyone present tonight have any questions from Mr. Agosto, please? No, I'm sorry, Mr. Lopez.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sure I got a question.
Can you identify Cesar?
Yeah.
Hi,
Mr.
Cesar.
York, you have the
How
forum.
you doing? So I'm doing like 2 meters at the same time. So sorry. Yeah. So I just are looking to clarify any infrastructure changes happening in our community that has to do with offshore wind. I know there's a huge project throughout the state and the city. It's over 2,000 megawatts of offshore wind being put, and then some of that will come to this neighborhood, but it's not really clear as to where the infrastructure will happen. Some people say it's Rikers, but I just looking to know if maybe your office has heard of that or has information about that stuff.
To my knowledge, we haven't heard about it, but next time I will give you an update if we find something. But I haven't heard anything about it. But I'd be
Okay.
willing to inform you next time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. Mr. Vice Chair.
That would be Mr. Sheik.
I am sorry, I had some technical difficulties.
Okay, Madam
All
Chair.
right, so I'm back here online, okay. So thank you for your report, Mr. Lopez. The next, elected official report. Is there anyone here from Senator Louis Sepulveda's office? Is there anyone here from the Assemblywoman Chantel Jackson? Is there anyone here from Assemblywoman Amanda Septimo's office? Do we have anyone here from the Controller's office, Brad Lander? Do we have anyone here from the New York City Public Advocate's office, from the Public Advocate Jamani Williams? Do we have anyone here from the New York City Council, the Honorable Raphael Salamanca, Councilman? Okay. Do we have anyone here from the Deputy Speaker, Councilwoman Diana Yala's office? Okay. Do we have anyone here from the Bronx DA's office, District Attorney Darcel Clark? Okay. We have concluded the elected officials portions of the agenda. Can we have a motion from the board members present to accept the elected officials' reports as presented tonight?
I, Freddie Perez, make a motion to accept the elected officials' reports for tonight's full board meeting.
Is there a
Second it.
second? All those, okay, so all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Let the record reflect that the motion carried to accept the elected officials' reports that was presented tonight. And what we will do in the next week or so, we'll send letters out to all of the elected officials, asking them to please make the time to come, and if they can't come, please send a representative.
Okay.
All right, okay. Is there any old business?
Madam Chair, if I may add to the old business, just a reminder that the executive committee is still reviewing the attendance. I don't know if you want to speak to that, Madam Chair.
Well, we've made that announcement and we'll follow up on that. I think it's very important. This is all part of the process to ensure that we can make quorum. We've made that announcement previously. And, you know, as we go into the next couple of weeks, we're reviewing attendance of the board and making sure that we can have quorum here. And on Monday, we will be meeting with Ciara Gannon, who is who'll be working with us, looking at the next selection of individuals who want to be on Community Board One. But in advance of that, we'll be sending out letters as well, around attendance. I mean, it's super critical now more than ever that we have an engaged community, united on key significant issues that impact all of us. But when one area of the district is impacted, that will impact all of us, and we stand united. So that being said, is there any new business?
I would like to make
Yes.
notice, Linda, to the
Yes.
MAP program, the Mayor Action Plan for Neighborhood Safety. We just got accepted for that particular program.
Who's we, Ms. Duke?
When I say we, it's the residents of the Mitchell houses and the surrounding community. And the program is neighborhood safety. It comes through the mayor's office. And it's got to the place now that they're asking people to get involved in health, senior citizen, youth development. And for the development, they even reaching out, telling individuals that part of the MAP program through the mayor office, they're giving us little stipend. When you got to give somebody something to be involved in your community, then that should tell you that is a need around neighborhood safety. And that's what the MET program is about. Patterson had it, and I think Jackson had it, and I don't know is Mount Haven, but we have that program now here. It's only a $30,000 budget, but
Okay, so
things have to be done that we're going to do in this particular area.
So Ms. Duke, and Mr. Jordan, can you find out about that program so that we can make everybody in the district aware of what that program is? And if it's available to everyone or just NYCHA families?
NYCHA family seems like NYCHA family. And we about the third or fourth development in the Community Board One area that have had the program.
So
Patterson had it.
Mr. Jordan, if you could get information about that so that we've got 21 NYCHA developments here. And I think that, we just want to get the word out. Ms. Aliato, you have a question? We are in new business. Is there any new business? Ms. Aliato, you have the forum. You're muted, so we can't, you had your hands raised.
Oh, wow, sorry.
That's fine.
So I was thinking if we can have DOT come into the board and talk about open streets. I just have some concerns about when they close the street here. We're going to have our street, I think our street, I saw that there was an application submitted for Alexander Avenue here between 134th and Bruckner. So if we can just have DOT come in just to talk about the numbers. I know they want to close the street. I think it makes sense. I think Saturdays were great. People come out, it's full, it's great. But like on a Friday to close the street between 2 in the afternoon and 8 doesn't make sense for the community. People are still in school. They're people coming from work. So if we can talk through, I'm not sure how that application gets processed and, if they even talk to the community about them. But in the past, I know that the street has been closed and there wasn't any conversation with residents who live on the actual block.
Right.
So it would be great. It would be great to have some kind of dialogue with them.
So, Mr. Jordan, there is generally a need to really engage with DOT because they've got a lot of responsibilities, especially around that program. They are actually being sued by, as a joint lawsuit with at least 3 boroughs around the program that she's talking about. And because they're saying that it's causing all kinds of like sanitation issues, nuisance issues. But if a community wants it and is engaged, that's different. But can we reach out to them to get them come before the community board so that if there's, we can have a discussion about it?
You asking for by committee or by full board?
Well, it should be done in committee and then noticed anyone who wants to attend the committee to have their issues addressed. But can you raise the specific issue around Alexander Avenue? I think that Ms. Aliata has raised that year over year around the closure of Alexander Avenue and the impact upon the traffic there. That's been a concern of hers, and there's been no outreach to,
Acknowledged.
yeah. Okay, so let's follow up in that regard. Thank you, Ms. Aliato. Is there any other new business? Anyone else have any other new business?
Hi, I'm not a community board member. I'm just part of the community. I was wondering if I can ask a question or should I wait another
You can
time?
put your question in the chat and you can actually put your question in the chat. And if you have a specific question, you can call the community board and speak to Anthony Jordan. He's the district manager, and you should call him at 718-585-7117. Mr. Jordan, can you please put your contact information for community residents so that if they have any specific issues or concerns, they can contact you directly?
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm sorry to interrupt.
Not a problem. That's what we're here for. That being said, there's no other new business. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Can I have a motion?
I make a motion, Freddie Perez, make a motion to adjourn tonight's.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Muhammad Sheikh, make the motion. to
All
adjourn the
those in
meeting.
favor?
That's the only thing he said all night. I got.
All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition to the adjournment? Any abstention? Meeting adjourned, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining tonight's community board meeting. Thank you so much, and good night.
Thank you.
Everyone have a
Night,
blessed,
everybody.
powerful
Good
night.
night.
Have a blessed,
Night.
powerful night and a safe weekend.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you too. Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Okay.
Okay.